Hello. Here on the 8th of June in 2025 in Hudson, New York, we finally have a day where it's not where the heat isn't running incessantly because there's snow and ice outside, and the air conditioning is not running because it's not sweltering hot, and because it's Sunday there are no delivery trucks trundling around, so it's nice and quiet. I've locked my dearly beloved in the bathroom so she doesn't walk in talking, and I'm going to talk about my journey with shaving and razors. So when I grew up, electric razors were very fashionable. That was considered to be the new age, and electric razors were the solution to everything. You could shave while you were driving. My experience is that electric razors always gave a lousy finish. You had to shave every day because they didn't shave very close, and they always made a dusty mess, and they made a lot of noise. I hated the things. But what was the alternative? A double-edged blade? A single-edged Gillette? Or, later on, a Gillette with 18 blades? Who knows? Anyway, none of those things were very attractive to me. The Gillette blades became very expensive if you used them regularly, and I didn't know what to do. So I used an electric razor for years until I had time to not be on the racing around all the time, bringing up a family, and decided that straight razors were going to be my evolution from the regular sharpening interests that I had for sharpening knives and pocket knives and kitchen knives and axes and scrapers and chisels and all those sort of things. So when I bought my first razor, it turns out that I couldn't make it shave painlessly. It was very difficult to work out how to do that. And 20 years ago, my ancestors who used straight razors were dead, and nobody in my sphere knew how to sharpen a straight razor. So I went to the internet and I looked for help. And what I got is what I typically get from the internet, is some good information and some not so good information. As my dear friend who's heavily involved in the evolution of artificial intelligence was telling me just yesterday, he's worked out a way that he's making a model that is trying to be intelligent as opposed to just gathering information. And he says he can get 9 out of 10 responses to be really good and reliable. And then one of them is complete bullshit. And the trouble is, you don't know which one that is. And so he's trying to work out a way that he can make the AI models work so that they further cross-check and double-check and verify and do all that sort of stuff to try and get the models to give better information. Well, my information about razors was poor. The advice was get a flat stone and grind your razor with flat bevels, and then you're going to get a good shave. Well, I could never get a good shave, and I ruined some good razors. So what did they advise? Well, they advise, first of all, buy a new razor. First thing you do, don't trust the manufacturer. Kill that edge. So you'd get your razor and you would run it on a piece of glass or something. Yeah, I've got a piece of glass. You'd run it over the edge of a piece of glass. Joint it, as they say. You literally run the edge right over the corner of the glass, completely wreck the edge. And then, what do you do next? You start with a flat stone. What is the best advice? Well, a Naniwa, a Chaucero, or Naniwa Professional, 1000 grit. This is the jolly green monster that everybody uses. So you get the thing here and you grind that razor, and the idea is that you hold the whole razor flat and then you grind away. Well, what that does is it grinds parts of the razor. It doesn't grind at all. And by the time you've ground the whole face, you've worn 3/4 of the useful life of the razor away. And you've wrecked the spine, and so it is. You wrecked lots of things. What did I do? I eventually got to Jared Connerty's website at the Superior Shave, and he was experimenting with making curved surfaces. So typically he had cylindrical surfaces to start with. So what I started out with is making a cylindrical surface, and then later on he brought out a plate which had an elliptical surface on it. And so it was typically 6 feet in one direction and 25 feet in the other direction, making the complex ellipsoid surface. An ellipsoid surface is the surface that you might find on, say, a Zeppelin, where it's long, it's like a long tube, and at no point is it cylindrical, and at no point is it round. It's ellipsoid. And, well, ellipsoids are complicated mathematical things, and they're not generally, those surfaces are not found in our daily lives. You can't go down to Walmart and buy yourself an ellipsoid surface. So this I finally ground by hand. I ground an ellipsoid surface onto it, but I didn't need such a big rock. So this has sat clean and unused for years. But that was my beginning, and since then I tried all sorts of other stones, like Arkansas stones. Those are the best. And then I tried Japanese water stones and synthetic water stones and caticules and Thuringian Escher stones, English slates, Charnley forests, everything. Tried them all. And they all work. They all have their special qualities. But in the end, they worked for milder steels. So this, for example, is a milder steel. This is, let's see, this is a manufactured for Wade and Butcher for gentleman's use. Well, okay, the gentleman, he must have had a tough beard. This is almost a wedge. And so what I'm going to try and do here is show what was wrong with the idea and then how we could improve it. So what I've tried to draw here is the blade edge on or end on. So here you can see this here is the spine, and this is the face, and then this is the bevel, and then right at the end here is the edge. So here I turn it up, and so here you can see the spine. The face on this one is slightly hollow ground. Later razors became more hollow ground until they became very thin. So fully hollow ground, or half hollow, or quarter hollow. Anyway, fully hollow ground razors were made later. The earliest razors in the 1800s were these English wedge. I think they're described as wedges. So there it is. This gives the real razor, and now my rendition is, I'm going to try and describe from this rendition. If this is the face, and then this is the spine, goes over the top, and then this is also the spine, and what you try to do is get the stone to go from, let's do it on this side here, from it, you've got a built-in jig, so it goes from the spine here all the way to the edge. So typically this would grind this part of the bevel away, and then it would grind the edge at a fairly obtuse angle, at least relative to the way that I like to do it now. And using a flat stone is what happens. So when the manufacturers make razors, they use wheels, and when they grind the edge or the bevel, they do it on a wheel. So it ends up, the bevel ends up being slightly concave. And what the advantage of that is that, first of all, it grinds this away so that the edge lasts much longer as you start off up here, and then you strop and strop and strop and wear it back, and you can get all the way back to here before you really need to cut back again and grind this away. So what the effect of this down here is that the edge is very flexible. So doing it this way, I get a flexible edge with a very keen edge. A flexible bevel with a very keen edge. And that's really what I found gives me the best shave. So if you use a flat stone, then you get a flat bevel like this and it comes to the edge. If it's a hollow ground, like on a wheel or on an ellipsoid surface, it'll cut this in here, and then it makes a longer, thinner bevel at the end here, and then it's easy to make a keen edge. So that's the theory, and so that's what I was trying to aim at. And so what I did is I worked with many different things. I got stones, for example. Here's an Arkansas stone. This is a piece of novaculite. That's the mineralogical name for Arkansas stone. It's a metamorphosed rock that is metamorphosed from the fine pieces of silica grit, which are then metamorphosed into the stone. And depending on the level of compression and the way it's turned and the mineralization that comes into the novaculite, you can get stains like these little bits of black. Here's another one which is sort of quite pretty. This is a mixture of black Arkansas and translucent Arkansas. And I have ground all of these. These are 6-inch long pieces, and they're flat on one side, and then I've ground an ellipsoid surface into the other side. So it's curved this way, about in a curve of about a 6-foot diameter, and then this way it's curved for about a 25-foot diameter. But what it means is that when you use it for sharpening, it only touches the spine and the bevel in one line. So what I would do is I would get a razor. So here's the razor. And as I put this on the spine and then onto the bevel, and I could actually almost rock it slightly side to side like that. But it's only touching wherever it touches on the spine, and then one line along here where it's actually touching the bevel. So then you grind away, and slowly but surely you grind the entire bevel. Whereas if this is completely flat, then it may not meet every part of the bevel. It usually will touch two places on the spine, so that keeps it sort of level. But then there's only one place that it touches here, and so it'll cut in some areas, and then it'll miss areas, and then cut again, and then miss and cut, and so on. The ellipsoid surface is much more effective at reaching all points of the bevel, and therefore all points of the edge. So that's what I started out with. I made all kinds of ellipsoid surface stones using India stones and synthetic stones and all kinds of Naniwa stones. I mean, lots of different things I tried. And eventually, they were all fine for older steels, for the steels that were hardened to between 58 and 60 Rockwell. Typically, all of the old English and German and Swedish and American razor blades were hardened to that level, so that they were easy enough for the user to sharpen, and they lasted well enough. And mostly the thing is that they were functional, because you use it and then you sharpen it, and then you use it and then you sharpen it. That's a very good way of dealing with things, compared with, say, buying a modern knife or a modern razor, which is harder, and particularly modern knives with these super hard steels. They're great, but who the hell can sharpen them? You've got your kitchen knife, which stays sharp for a few weeks, and then you try and sharpen it, and it's so hard that it's impossible for most people. Okay, you can buy your diamond stones and so on, you can sharpen them, but for the average person, it's too hard to deal with, so all it becomes is a very expensive disposable knife, and that's no good. Now, the reason I've got these razors here is because these are made by Tim Zawada. He's a custom razor maker. He's highly specialized. He's been making razors for about 20 years, and I was one of his first advocates, and I'm still an advocate. So he's trying to make me a razor right now when he gets to it. But this is one of his earlier razors, and this is a fairly simple razor which he made at a time when I think he was injured and he couldn't make the Damascus steel, or more typically, he couldn't make what he calls his timahagani, which is his version of the Japanese tamahagani. Anyway, this razor is, Tim's razors are all hardened to a much higher Rockwell hardness, like 63 to 65. They're very hard. And what I found is that trying to sharpen them on the standard sharpening stones was just not very effective. The Arkansas stones, I could rub those things till I had a long white beard, and I still wouldn't get them sharp. So eventually, trial and error, trying all sorts of different things, but I eventually came down to taking advantage of my dear friend, the woodworker down the road, who always stopped all his projects and made whatever I wanted at any one time. Let me use his grinders, let me use his belts and all his things to make my rocks and bits of wood. And then he gave me these bits of tiger maple, and then he cut them all into blocks for me. And then I shaped these on Jared's ellipsoid surfaced plates. So these have all got ellipsoid surfaces. So here I've got 3 of these here, and they have different grits on them. At various times I've had thinner, let's see, I've got some here, I think. I've had thinner versions of it. When I was learning how to do it, I tried just these plain pieces of clear maple, and they're very nice to use because they're thin and light. But what I found is that my fingers sticking over the edge like this were often very close to the blade, whereas the slightly thicker stone I can hold on the sides and not end up making a bloody mess all over the stone. So these were great. Then I got these lapping films from, let's see, Lee Valley. And here's a typical sheet. It's 3 by 6 inch sheet. This is the orange. And then some of them were, then there was pink, I think, yeah, pink, and then green, and then beige. Anyway, there were different thicknesses. So the orange was 15 micron, the pink is 3 micron, the beige was 0.5 microns, and the green was 0.1 microns. So I tried them all out. I have ended up with only 2 of those materials that I use on a regular basis. This I keep as a spare unit, and these 2 I seldom, or I don't use any longer, but I keep them. I use only the orange and the pink. The only reason I'd use the orange is if I've damaged the razor. I hit it against the bathroom faucet, or I dropped the razor, or I did something stupid with it. I don't do that very often, almost never nowadays, because I'm more careful and I realize the consequences of being reckless with a sharp razor. So I almost never use the orange. All my razors are in good condition, and all they need is touch-up. So I seldom use this. The one I do use is the pink. I mean the orange, the pink, that's right. And this being, what did I say? The pink was 3 microns. And I'm guessing this is roughly the equivalent of a 4,000 to 5,000 grit stone. It works fine for reestablishing the concave bevel on my razor and rubbing out any tiny little nicks from catching bits of beard, just general wear. After many shaving, the edge gets worn. That's why you have to resharpen it. This is about all I use nowadays. So what do? I just put this on the razor and then I sharpen it. But I don't use it dry, because even though people say you can use it dry, I've found that using some sort of lubricant protects the the mylar. This is 3M's diamond film with a mylar base, and then it's got diamonds laid into the mylar. This was developed recently, or not so recently. It was developed for polishing all the fiber optics made by Corning to make the internet. So that all the fiber optic backbone network for the entire internet is polished with these materials. So then I used oils. So which oil? So I tried making my own oil. I got this lapping oil, number 2. I made 3 of them, different thicknesses. This one's the thicker of them. And I made this with glycerin and distilled water. It works very nicely. It's okay. It was an experiment just to learn about how it works. Then there was this stuff, which was made by, I think, Trend. And anyway, I think it's the same stuff made for a number of different retailers or distributors. And I don't know what it is. It's some sort of thin oil. And it's used mostly on diamond plates or cubic boron nitride plates, so that this prevents the water from getting underneath the nickel plating and then corroding it and then lifting the nickel plating, and then of course you lose all your diamonds. So I think this is what that was made for. There are different versions of it. I then used mineral oil. For quite a long time I just used mineral oil. I used the thin mineral oil, not baby oil, which smells like baby, but thin mineral oil which I could get from farm supply stores. It's used for animals in some respect, and it's about $20 a gallon, and I use maybe an ounce a year or something. And it's odorless, it's thin, it works very nicely. And what I did with this is put a fragrant oil in it. I put an essential oil in it, typically oud, which is an essential oil from, I think, northern India, and it's distributed and sold in Dubai and other places in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. And my sister used to get it for me and send it to me. It was expensive and smelled wonderful. And putting a drop into the mineral oil meant that I could be entertained with good fragrance while I sharpened my razors. Then what I really ended up using a lot, this is Honrite gold. This is also used on metal plates, so it's an alternative to the trendy stuff. Then what I use most of all with these 2 oils, Dan's oil, that's Dan's Whetstone Company, sells this oil to use on Arkansas stones. It's excellent. But the one downside to this is that it smells of oil. I mean, not just ordinary oil, it's kind of stinky oil. Anyway, it works beautifully. I've used this. I still use it. It's great. And then recently I got some of this stuff, which is called stroppy stuff. And that works equally well. I'm very pleased with it. I think it must be a glycerin base, so that it's a plant oil, and I'm very pleased with that. So to get back to the sharpening part, what I do with it is I put a drop or 2 on this. I put a little thin stripe along here, and then I rub it around on the surface. And what that does is it keeps it lubricates the diamonds and the mylar, and it also keeps the swarf in suspension. So what I usually do is I hold the block of wood in my in my hand, and mostly what I'm trying to say is I hold the razor steady. Just hold my hand, stick my finger under the face here, and that holds it steady. And then I get my ellipsoid surface here so that it touches the spine and it touches the bevel in one line. So I've got a slight amount of rock because it's a rounded surface. But what that means is that I can lean it slightly in toward the heel as I'm polishing this edge, and then as I go along, I I polish away, and then as I get to the toe, I lean it out toward the toe a bit so that I make sure that the line from the razor's got a built-in jig which runs from the spine to the bevel. It's not like you have to measure your angle and then try and lock your wrist and hold it at the right angle. It's all built in. You just rub it along both surfaces. So here you can see that I start to rub it, and it doesn't take long before this diamond film will cut right through that 65 Rockwell hardness steel, which is almost impervious to all the other stones that I have. And just in those few strokes, you can see that there's a whole lot of swarf in that oil. And I'll turn it over just to give you an idea here. So if I move this along the surface like this, you can see how quickly it cuts the bevel. And I do it both ways so that what I'm just doing is abrading that concave bevel so that it eventually works from the beginning part of the bevel, right up the part nearest the spine is the first place to touch between the spine and the bevel. With this curved, this ellipsoid surface, the first place to touch would be here. And as you grind, it grinds away the thick part of the bevel, and eventually it gets down right down to the edge. So it makes that long, thin, flexible edge with a very keen edge at the end. So here you can see it doesn't take long to do this. And with the average refreshing of a razor after a few weeks of use, it doesn't take long to just make that edge new again. So that gives you an idea. I can wipe it clean, and then I can look at it, and what I found works really well is one of these lit magnifying glasses. I've used many things in the past. I started off using a stereo microscope and a compound microscope, thinking I could see it. The trouble with it is that it is very difficult to look at the edge straight on with a compound microscope, because you couldn't get the light at the right angle and you couldn't see. And so fiddle, it worked. I learned a lot from doing that. And then I found this was much better, because I could look at this, the jeweler's loop. This is a 10 power jeweler's loop. I think it is used in the diamond industry. High quality optics. And this way I could get the light so that I could see it, and then I could look at the edge, on the edge, and then by looking at it carefully, if there was ever a flat spot, I could see it immediately, and then I could get my stone and polish out just that area. It wasn't as if I had to get a big wide stone and flatten, get the wide stone flat on the spine and then grind away the entire edge until it eventually ground the whole edge. That's just a way of using up a lot of razor and ruining the shape of the edge. But then what I found is that this low power magnifier, it's just a 5 power, is great. It's I think made by Eschenbach, and it's got an LED light in it. So there I turn it on, and you can see it's got a bright little LED light in it, and then I can just look through it, and the light shines right on the edge. So I can see the bevel, and that doesn't tell me very much. It tells me whether I've actually ground enough to reach the edge. But if I look at the edge itself, that's really where I see all the information. And I look along the entire edge. Typically, there'll be a flatter area somewhere around here and another flat area around there. And I mean, I don't find that very often because I know where to grind them now. But if I grind away at the ends like this, I can get that absolutely all the way sharpened Same thing down here. Just tilt it slightly in toward the heel, grind it away there, and then it doesn't take long to get a very high quality, beautifully finished edge. And then when I look at it with the magnifying glass, it all becomes vanishingly thin. There's no little sparkly on the end. Now, if there is a little sparkle on the end, sometimes it's a tiny bit of residual burr. But I'm now quite careful not to strop it too much. What I've found is that this 3 micron pink stone actually gives me a micro toothy edge on the razor. And it's a long-lasting and a very good edge. So what I don't want to do is simply strop it all off. So what I did is I've got a strop that does just what I wanted to do. Now, when finding stropping material, I brought out some pieces of leather to give an idea of what it takes to find an appropriate strop for my needs. I had to become an expert in leather, apart from anything else, just to work out how to do this. Soft leathers like this. This is, I believe, lamb skin, and or kid skin, I think it's called. It's thin. It's not much use for any kind of stropping. And then typically we use bovine leather. So a nice thick piece of bovine leather. But this is probably, here's another piece. This is a piece of bovine leather, and you can see it's fairly coarse on the inside. It's not very dense. It's thick, but it's not dense. And it's okay. It does the job. You can put compounds in here, but this is better suited to a kitchen knife or an axe or something like that. And same thing with this. It's too rough. It's not dense enough for my purposes. Here I'm banging the microphone. Got a nice big old fat condenser microphone here, all to feed the sound into a little stupid iPhone. An old, what is it, an iPhone 10, I think. Anyway, it works fine. And so this is a better piece of leather. This is probably from the shoulder of a cow. So the quality of the leather is better. It's thicker, it's more dense, it's higher quality. Or in fact, actually, no, I take that back. I think this looks like horse butt. This is too dense. This is too good to be from any kind of bovine leather. That's a piece of bovine leather. You can see it's rough, and you can see I've used it here for polishing things. This is great if you want to polish the face of the razor, for example. You can get this piece out and put a bit of abrasion in here, say a piece of chromium oxide paste or something like that, and then you just get it here and you polish this. Polishes up the face nicely. Anyway, I believe this is what they call horse butt. It's not the same as this. Now this is better. This is what's called shell cordovan, and so the horse butt is over the top of the shell cordovan, and so the top piece of leather is taken off, and it does this. It's high quality leather. It's dense. It's very good. And then, but the stuff that I like best of all is this shell cordovan. It's very dense. It's very fine. It's very tough. It doesn't stretch out of shape at all. And this is my favorite. I've got a couple of other pieces of leather here just to show you. This, for example, is upholstery leather, and it's flexible. It can twist and shape, and it's made to feel comfortable when you sit on it. The inside is still fairly rough. It's thin enough, but not much good for stropping. This is kangaroo skin. It's very nice. It's very thin. You can see it's only about 1 millimeter thick, 1.5, 2 millimeters thick, something like that. Very thin, very tough, very nice to use. It's great if you put it on a hard surface. For example, here I have a piece of glass. Oh, another strop I tried to use once was these bits of glass. I ground them so that they are like the ground glass for a large format camera. And then I put a very fine, a 0.25 micron diamond paste on it and spread that around, and then try to use that. But what that ends up doing is making little nicks in the surface, so that didn't work so well. But what this is good for is a piece of glass is great for using a kangaroo skin, which keeps it very flat, and because it's thin, it's not very compressible. So that can make an extremely nice strop. Anyway, it's not my favorite, but it's second best, I'd say. Here's another little piece. It's great for wiping off an edge. Good stuff, kangaroo skin. This is the piece of shell cordovan. These are other bits of shell cordovan. This is finished, so this has a black finished surface on it. This piece too. But it's the same high quality, thin, dense leather. Very expensive. It's made. I used to get this from Horween Leather near Chicago, and it's something like $100 for a little piece, 18 inches by 12 inches or something. And then you've got to spend another $50 to get it shipped because it has to be wrapped carefully and not crushed. And well, it's a whole big palaver, and you've got to wait for ever to even have access to a piece. But the one shell cordovan piece that I got has lasted me for many years, and I've cut all sorts of things out of it. It's great leather, and the Horween leather is great. So what I do is I've just got this little piece, and once I've finished sharpening it with this pink stone, I don't want to literally strop out everything. So what I do is I just use this, and I've got a little bit of diamond paste in here. Here, I can show you some of the diamond paste that I've used. For example, I got this, for example. This is called Wood is Good Strop Abrasive. It's aluminum oxide, some sort of aluminum oxide that you can rub into your leather. I don't use that much anymore. But then the big breakthrough was when Ken Schwartz started making diamond and cubic boron nitride slurries. So this, I think, was, it's 1 micron, and this little bottle I've used for years. It's almost, I'm 3/4 finished now, and it's worked very well for me. Since then, in trying out different things, I made my own novaculite grit. This is grit from cutting the stones. Steve at Dan's Whetstone Company gathered up some of this old grit from the diamond saws, and then I ground it further with a mortar and pestle, and then put it in this glycerin, and it's terrific for everything except razors. It has too many rogue pieces in it, but for putting on a piece of rough cow leather and polishing out utility tools, it's great. And then I got this piece, this stuff, which is from Stroppy Stuff. This is another 1 micron diamond emulsion, diamond, what do they call it? A diamond suspension. It's diamond in probably glycerin. I don't know what it is, but some sort of thing that you can rub into leather. And then I got some of this, which is gunny juice, and this is 0.25 micron. And this is what I use now with this piece of shell cordovan leather. I put 1 drop of it onto the end here and wait for it to dry, rub it into the leather and let it dry. And the diamond grit in the leather sinks into the leather, so it's only the tips of the grit that are actually cutting. And what I find is that that's all I need to be able to wipe off any little bits of residual burr. So a few gentle stripes, wipes like that, that will take away any residual burr, but it doesn't wipe it enough to take out all the teeth. So I still have essentially a 3 micron, it's roughly 4,000 or 5,000 grit, a 3 micron toothy edge on it, but this has removed a tiny bit of the burr. So it's a micro toothy edge on my razor, But the important thing is that there are no flat spots on the end because of looking at it under the light and getting it right. And it is truly a high quality edge. So I make all my edges like that now. I know what to expect. It's very good. It shaves beautifully, and it's very sharp. Here I have another razor that I have sharpened, and this is another Tim Zawada razor. Again, another very hard razor. This is what he calls Timahagani steel. That's his name for the steel that he makes from the iron sands from Lake Michigan. And it's his version of what the Japanese call Tamahagani. So Timahagani is his little thing on his name. I've sharpened this razor. It's got a perfect edge on it, and I'll give you a demonstration of how it cuts. So here I have my little bottle of whiskers. A bearded friend gave me these tough old whiskers so that I could use them for testing. And you'll see here, I've tried to put it against a black background, and you can see that as I touch it here, it just knocks it right off. Now I've got to turn the wrong way. You've got to get it so that it shaves the right way. Here we are. I'll try and show that again, if that's in the light. See, it just, on contact, it just cuts it right off. So there are the bits. It's a fabulous edge. It lasts well. It's, because it's so thin, it's nice and flexible right on the edge, and it's very keen. It shaves beautifully, and it shaves for quite a long time. I don't strop it, and I don't strop it on, a big 3-inch wide strop on the back of the bathroom door and give it 15 laps and completely round over the edge. I just leave it like this. Just my little, this is my strop, this little thing. It finishes it perfectly, just like that. Just wipe off any excess burr, the little bits of grit. And now this is 0.25 micron. I'm not using 1 micron or 5 micron or some bigger bits of grit. I find those two will, once you get coarse like that, they round over the edge. But this quarter micron is fine enough that it just takes a little bit off the edge and leaves my strong toothy edge, which is still within the sharpening triangle. It's still within the realm of the good steel for the edge. So here my edge is hollow like this, and then this long piece at the end is the little teeth at the end are just cleaned off by the strop. Just remove any weak steel in the form of a burr. Just removes any little weak bits of steel that are hanging beyond the toothy edge. That's what I want. So there it is. And so that's my long journey in making razors, and that's where I am now. Who knows? Maybe next week I'll discover something else that I like to do. Whatever your case, as long as it works for you, it's fine. This is what works for me, and I'm pleased with it. And I've tried many things, as I've tried to tell you about. There are lots more things that I haven't told you about, some of which have been dismal failures, some of which have been interesting, some have given fairly good edges, but ultimately this is the finish that I like, and this is what works for me. So there we are. I'm going to go and let my dearly beloved out of the bathroom. She can talk again, and then I'll see if I can entice her to come up here and look at my razors. I suspect that she'll be bored and won't be very interested, but I'll give it a try. All right, that's it. Goodbye.